Right. Can you? Right, I've changed a couple of bits there. Let's see. Oh, that's going super slow. any audio now? Can you hear me yet? Can't tell whether that's coming in or not. No audio. Right, anything better there, Sean? No, hold on. Oh, hold on a minute. I'll tell you what. I think it's used the wrong thing. Hold on a minute. Properties. Let's try that. Okay. Anything now, Sean? Is that coming up yet? Hold on, let's go with not suppression there. Good. Suppression is on. Okay. Anything going there? Oh, hold on. Can you hear me now? I still have mute on YouTube. Can you hear me yet? Oh, damn it. Alright. No audio. Right, anything better there, Sean? Hold on. Oh, hold on a minute. I'll tell you what. I think it's used the wrong thing. Hold on a minute. Properties. Suppression is on. Okay. Right, anything going there? Oh, hold on. Can you hear me now? I still have mute on YouTube. Can you hear me yet? Oh, damn it. Alright. No audio. Right, anything better there, Sean? No, hold on. Oh, hold on. I'll tell you what. I think it's used the wrong thing. Hold on a minute. Suppression is on. Okay. Right, anything going there? Oh, hold on. Can you hear me now? still have mute on YouTube. Now, can you hear me yet? Oh, damn it. Alright. Anything better there, Sean? No, I don't know. Right, anything going there? Oh, hold on. Can you hear me now? I still have mute on YouTube. Now, can you hear me yet? Oh, damn it. Alright. Anything better there, Sean? No, I don't know. Right, can you hear me now? Right, can you hear me now? Any better volume there? It's bringing up stuff from 10 minutes ago. Perhaps this is going to be a Q&A on you helping me on how to get this set up properly. Right, okay, let's have a look at the video settings, see if I can get something that will run a bit smoother so you can actually see me properly. Let's have a quick look on video, no, outputs, there we go. Path, yes. Right. Okay. Can you hear me? Let's go back into here. Right, really sorry about this, guys. It is going so slow. Don't quite understand why I'm getting so much feedback from so long ago in the chat. It's taking so long for it to go through. Right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to push ahead and run through on what's actually coming up in the Lawn Care Masterclass in the videos that I'm going to be posting over the next couple of months. What I will do, I will have to look at reposting this. I might have to play around with it and chop it down a bit. Certainly get rid of the first 20 minutes where I've got no idea about what's going on. The flow rate of the actual video is so slow that it's taking anything up to 10 minutes for the information to come back to me so that I can see what's going on. Actually, the latency in here is actually slightly improved, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually change that down just a little bit more, because that seems to have improved it. And see whether or not that actually can help with the overall flow of the video. Right, so right, let's just try that and see whether or not we've actually got better quality on the sound and the video. Taking the bitrate down at 2,500, which is low. It was working really badly, but now it seems that actually, do you know what, I'm also going to get rid of the latency as well. No, I'll leave that as is, otherwise I'm just mucking around with too many bits. Okay, so what we're looking at now, obviously with the weather, bit of a weather update. Actually, let's go to that one just so I can show you what's in the schedule for today. So, sound check. It seems as though we've got that sorted. Doesn't necessarily make it so. So hopefully when I go through this, I'll look at the actual copy that YouTube posts directly on, and if I need to replace it, then I'll just edit the chat today so that when I post it up, I'll post up a copy tomorrow. So weather update now. I actually saw an American guy earlier today whose name is hold on, I'm logged out. Of course I'm logged out. Right, I had looked for him, and he was talking about the weather that we're going to be getting in the UK as being much worse than what we were talking about with the Met Office. Now he's talking about some really silly temperatures. Let's just have a look, see if I can find his name for you, because I know some of you guys will be American, and his name is Paul Begley, and he's talking about, well, I was looking at temperatures of about -6 to -10, but he's talking of temperatures -16 to -22. I'm not sure I've got quite enough underwear to survive in that kind of weather, but the videos that I was going to be doing next week to get started with the practical stuff in the garden, or actually what to do on the lawns, it's not going to be happening next week, so I'll have to be posting other stuff. What we'll have a look at is what's coming up over the next couple of months. So in no particular order, what we're looking at, the first one, I did actually do a copy of the microgeology of the garden, microgeology and microgeography of the garden, and how everything that's in and around your garden and the surrounding properties actually will affect how your lawn will grow and what you need to do to look after it and make it look really healthy. But somehow I seem to have lost it, so I've re-recorded that one, and that's going to be edited to go up probably on Tuesday actually. Following that, there's a macro geography video that will follow on from that, that looks at the wider region. So it looks at the geology underneath the ground where you are, which covers possibly hundreds of square miles. So whether you're on clay, silt, sand, whether you've got a chalk base, whether you're on a chalk basin or a silt basin. There's also a really good app which I'll show you for that as well, and I'll be doing a separate video sometime in the next couple of months that will cover the top 5 or 6 apps that you can use on your smartphone so you can look at these things. One is iGeology and the other one is My Soil, and both are really, really handy. One of those will actually talk about the average level of pH that you have in your garden, and one of the other videos, like the next one on the list actually, is pH testing of your lawn and how to do that and what it means for what you need to do to actually look after your lawn in the long term. Also will affect what you'll do with the maintenance schedule that you'll have through the year, feed and weed, moss treatments, and what you do for the rest of the year. And next will be tools for the job. Now I've actually agreed with Cornell and Varley, who is my local machinery wholesaler, that I'll be able to go in there after work one day and do an interview with him and look through all the tools and bits that he has there. Apart from anything else, I like going there because their workshop has hundreds of lawn mowers, everything from the tiny little push mowers which cost £30–40 up to the big ride-on mowers which are £3.5–4 grand. So it's always good to have a bit of a nose around there. So I'm going to do an interview with him. That'll probably end up being a bit of a longer video, but we can have a look at all the tools that you can use, and we'll go through advantages and disadvantages of everything from the basic push mower up to electric fly mow, petrol fly mow, small domestic lawnmower, and then the larger powered lawnmowers and how they can affect you, and also looking at battery powered ones and how they work as well. Then looking at a plan for the year. Each garden's different. With my garden, I know one of the main things that I've got to look at with my lawn is to deal with the drainage, because our lawn gets very, very, very soggy. It's not helped by the microgeography of the garden. We've got lots of hedges around the side and a lot of trees at the end of the garden, and as we're south facing, we get a lot of shade, so it doesn't help actually dry out the lawn too much because we've got too much shade on the lawn. So I'll be going through how to plan for the year. So you need to look at what you've actually got in your lawn and what problems you have, what you need to do for it, and then look at an order of what you're going to do to make it work. There's certain things you want to do in a certain order, and there are certain things that I'll talk about that you won't necessarily need to do. So from that point of view, it's not necessarily something that you'll have to put into your schedule for the year, but I will be going through everything so you can pick and choose what you need to do. Excuse me. Then, assuming that winter actually finishes, the first thing we'll be looking at to actually do anything with the lawn is the first cut of the year and looking at the rule of thirds. And I'll go through that and I'll show you a before and after on my lawn to show you how it'll look, but I'll also take out small bits of grass so you can see the difference between a grass before it's cut and then the initial cut. Because the winter's been quite mild and it's been quite wet, what will probably end up happening is I'll do a top cut, which means cutting the lawn on the highest setting I possibly can. If that does the third in its first cut, I'll probably leave it at that, because doing any more than that you can actually end up stressing your lawn, and you don't really want to do that. A lot would depend on how spring actually starts. With the way the weather is at the moment, it's been a very mild, very wet winter, and it has been more and more so over the last few years. When I originally started, lawns were generally dry and generally quite cold as we went through the winter. I think in 2002, my first winter, my last lawn was cut around second week of November, I think it was, and I didn't cut a blade of grass again until I think it was second week of March. But apart from exceptionally cold or exceptionally wet periods of the winter, I generally cut grass all year round, with the exception of maybe 1 or 2 weeks. So how you actually manage the lawn through the winter has changed a lot. So we'll talk about how you look at your lawn, see what the conditions are, and how you actually start managing in the springtime. Now, I don't have much moss in my lawn. I did a big scarifying a few years back on this lawn, so there's not too much in there, but there's enough in there to actually go through a moss treatment. So I'll show you the process of how to calculate how much moss treatment you need, what it's made of, what it does, how to apply it, and then the time periods that are involved in waiting for the moss killer to actually kill off the moss that's in the lawn, and then how to scarify and take all the dead moss out and how big it bulks up, because when you cut grass you'll end up with 1 or 2 black sacks of grass off your lawn if you've got a relatively small lawn. With the same size lawn, when you scarify and you're doing a deep scarify to take lots of the moss out, what will end up happening is you end up with a massive amount of cuttings that will come out, and depending on what type of scarifier you use and how deep you want the scarifier to actually go into the lawn will change how much you actually take out. When I did this lawn here, I took out 2 bulk bags of moss. By that time it had a real bad moss problem. Right, so next on that, so then once the moss is treated and removed, we'll be looking at lawn treatments for the year. Depending on how much work you want to do with looking after your lawn, you can do one treatment. You do a feed and weed in the springtime. That will help to kill off the weeds that you have in your lawn, and then through the rest of the year, depending on how slow the releases of the nutrients into the grass, that will help the leaf green up. Generally it tends to get a bit darker, but also the iron sulfate that's in the moss killer will do the same thing as well. So both together will give a much richer green to your grass. Also, with the period after feed and weed has been done, or after you've done the scarifying treatment, you also look at putting seed down to fill in the gaps where you've taken all the moss out and killed off all the weeds. Then we will look at edge repair. So if at the edge of your lawn you have any areas where there's any damage, whether it's from badgers, foxes, dogs, or it's just over a period of time where you've been digging out the lawn, digging out the border, and actually doing any treatments, there may have been some damage. So what we'll look at there is how to do basic repair. Hi Wayne. It's very quiet, so let's have a look. I was worried about that. Let's see if we can boost the volume on that. Give me just a second. I will look at putting a boost on there. Gain. Right, so. Right, okay, let's see if that helps at all. Let's go back to the chat screen. Hi Nick, it's very quiet and it's now frozen. I will refresh the feed. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what's happening with the actual feed. It is running so slow. It's like waiting for British Rail. Now I've boosted the sound. Let me know if you can hear me, Wayne. I've boosted the sound a bit. Hopefully that'll be a bit better. I know there's a bit of lag on there, but hopefully the actual sound will come through a bit nicer. Let's have a look. Right, okay, so where are we at? Right, so edge repair we've done, so we're next looking at hole repairs. Over time you can get dips in your lawn, and all will be going through. It's a very simple process of where you might have sort of level lawn, it dips and then comes back up, so how to actually fill that back in and then reseed over the surface to give you a flatter area. Then also we've got leveling. Now again, depending on your lawn, depends how you'll do it. So what I will end up doing, and I wouldn't suggest you guys do it, I'm only going to do it to show you so you can see how the levels actually change, is I'm going to cut the grass really low, but I'm going to do that over a period of weeks in preparation for that, so that when we look at how to fix the levels, you can actually see all the undulations through the lawn, of which there are a lot. Now the main reason it says slow mode is on. Ah, hold on. Let's see if I can take slow mode off. Stream output. Right, let me have a look. Edit delay. Let's take the delay off. Enable slow mode. Right, okay. Save changes. Right, we'll go back and let's see whether or not that has fixed things. Slow mode is off. Chat away. Right. Okay, let's see if that works any better. Right, leveling. So yes, two of the main issues that will cause problems for leveling. One is foxes. They're the main issue. You will generally find on lawn you'll actually have a line that runs through your lawn, and that's just foxes going through their normal path that they have every day. Also as well, where you have it's off slow and brilliant, thanks Wayne. So where you've got people on the lawn, whether it's children playing football or if you've got a whirly gig or washing line and you're always staying in the same place, over time what will happen is the ground's going to dip. So in the process of looking at doing a top dressing, we're going to look at trying to level everything out to smooth it off. When the grass is long and tufted, you can't really see that easily. So what I'll do is cut everything right down so we can see all the levels, make up the top dressing, and then smooth everything out. What I haven't decided yet, because one of the main things I do need to do on the lawn is to actually do aeration, because it's a major bog in my garden. It's absolutely sodden, and going out there today with the temperatures so cold, the soil is completely frozen. So the three main different ways of aerating. One is with a circular rotator that will actually make very small holes that are about so big, and then there's hollow tine aeration, which tends to be about 6 inches, and that's probably the one I'm going to do, because the next one up is herringbone drainage system, and that means digging up the entire garden, and you know, I really can't be bothered to do that. It's so much work. I'm hoping that using the hollow tine aerator will actually work great. So that will probably be the biggest task on the lawn this year. Then we've got edge cutting. So very, very simple. So we've got re-edging and edge cutting. I recut the edging on my lawn about 3 years ago, I think it was, and just over time, with the lawn being so wet, with animals coming through the garden, just with the way it's been cut and how loose the structure is in some places, what's ended up happening is that the edges can collapse. So what we'll do is we'll look at doing repairs on the edges, and hold on, let's go back to, hold on, there we go, sorry, right, okay, and with the aerating, so we've done, right, so on the edges, so there'll be a little bit of repair on that, but also I'll show you how to recut in, and that's something as simple as just using a half moon edging iron. Can be done with a shovel or a spade, but because they tend to have curved edges, it can actually ruin the line of your edge. So I'll show you a few different tools and what's best to do that job. Now I've already mentioned the top dressing. Now there's already a video for top dressing which I did a couple of years ago on a large garden in Purley. It's actually on the Webb estate, and I won't do another video for that, but what I will do is, as I make up my own top dressing, I'll show you how I apply it, and I may do it in 2 parts. One may be initially to actually fill in the aerating holes that I'll make with the hollow tine aerator, and then after that actually fill in the dips and the bumps. Now, going back to the scarifying, now there's a couple of different scarifiers you can use. My one is a blade scarifier rather than a tine scarifier, and what I find works best with that is that the blades can actually cut through the surface, so where you do have slight bumps in the surface, that can actually cut through and help you level out, but it does mean attacking the garden in different directions, but you do that anyway to get as much moss out of the lawn as you can. So I might do that in 2 parts, might do that in 1, just depends how I get to it and time. So the aerating will probably take the best chunk of a day actually on that lawn, because I'm going to take a lot out, so I just need to make sure I have a lot of sand and soil to fill back in. Scarifying I've already covered. This time of year, not going to talk too much about watering, but with the volume of videos that I do need to do, I've been looking at my schedule. Now, I've changed recently to uploading 2 new videos each week, one on Tuesday, one on Friday, with additional extra ones coming up during the week at some point if I need to. But just on these alone, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, so that's 20. So that's 20 videos I've got there just on that, which is 10 weeks worth of stuff. So where are we now? The last week of February, March, April. So in theory I could get through all of those by middle of May, which probably is not too bad on timing actually, but I do have a lot of other videos that I do want to do, so it may be that I might have to do additional videos during the week on a Saturday or a Sunday, maybe post one up before I actually run a live stream on a Saturday evening. Right, cuttings. That will only be a short one. What to do with the cuttings? You generally, with a normal lawn, you actually want to take the cuttings away. You can actually do level composting with them on the borders, but generally don't recommend that. But we'll talk about that at some point. And overseeding. We're going to be doing that at some point anyway. Once we've cleared the weeds out, now they'll probably end up doing a separate video on actually manually taking out weeds rather than just treating them, because to start with you might actually want to take some of the larger plantain weeds out just because they make such a big hole in the lawn. What you don't want to be left with is great big holes once they're taken out, as long as you get all of the stem root out on the larger ones. And the other key thing is as well, if there's anything else that's not in the list of the videos that I'm doing, then you can always talk to me and say, actually I've got this particular issue, could you do something about this? Can you do a video on this particular topic? Which I'm glad to do, obviously. And that pretty much covers everything that's going to be in the masterclass. Now there's still a few other videos in my lawn care video series, or playlist, sorry, and I will be moving those over once I get the thumbnails updated to the new style, and then from there we'll see if there's anything else that you do need. So let's have a quick look, just make sure I'm remembering everything that's going on. Right, now how many are we? Right, okay, we've got 3 of us. Okay, who else is here? So we've got Wayne. Did Sean go? Let's see if we can find who else is actually here this evening. So at this point, the run through of what's coming up in the masterclass through the next few months is done. Have you got any questions on that? And let's see if we've got anyone here. This gives me a good chance to have a quick cuppa. Let's have a look. I was actually quite worried originally. Actually, no, not worried. I was waiting to turn up and have no one here, so it's very cool you guys have turned up actually. I know Dan, I forgot the guy's name now, so sorry Dan, one of the guys who had a look at my channel very briefly. I told him not to bother too much because I've got so much to update on it. When he originally did his first live stream, he didn't actually have anyone turn up, which is what I was hoping wouldn't happen on mine, which is cool. I've got a couple of people here. So at this point, now I leave it open for you guys. At any point, ask any questions you want, either about the lawn care masterclass or any other videos that have gone up, or any future videos that you'd like to come up. And what I'll quickly do, I will dig out my list of the hundreds of videos that I've got to come up. Right, now I mentioned on my I'm losing my YouTube status video, one of the things that came up was top tips for selling your house. Now I've already made up a list for that, excuse me, so I'll be going through that video at some point. I would imagine that's probably going to be a month or two away, so we'll just wait and see. Well, we've gone super slow again. Hold on, let's get rid of that because that's making that so difficult. Right, we've got top apps for gardeners, top websites, top places to go, online gardening stores, and what I may do is split that into a number of different sections. So one that deals with timber, so if you're looking at doing fencing or decking, top 5 or 6 places that you can go to online to get stuff from them that are very helpful. Also some online resources. There's one particular one that deals with how to calculate concrete mixes. So if you're looking to lay a patio, lay a small brick wall or something, it will help you work out what materials you need and how much of each you need for actually doing that, plus how many bricks you might need to build the wall that you're doing, or if you're using 300 by 300 slabs, how many you need to create a patio area of a certain size. That's a very, very handy site. I use that every now and again. Then I'm also looking at doing some shorts. I'm not quite sure whether to do those as individuals to go up by themselves or to go on the end of other videos. I'm still trying to work that one out, but as you'll see, or as you will have seen from the recent videos that I've done, I'm changing how the videos look, and I'm uncertain yet as to what the final makeup of the videos will be. It's changing all the time and I'm playing with it. If you've got any suggestions as to what's good or what's bad, I'd love to hear it, because obviously I only go on what I know. I can see some of it based on what people are saying from terms of how many views I'm getting. So some are doing better than others, but the main problem is it's still only February and it's still flipping cold, so people aren't thinking about their gardens really at the moment. So I'm not sure that the views and the view time that's showing on there, or even the number of subscribers that I'm getting, are actually indicative of people who are actually interested in gardening, because it's the wrong time of year, because it's too cold to do any gardening. Right, so couple of videos that I might be doing this week. I've spoken to a member of staff at a local nursery, and I've got to send an email off to one of their managers, and I want to do a couple of videos on really good plant presents for Mother's Day and for Easter. So I've got to try and get that done in the next week, because obviously Mother's Day is quite early, and so is Easter, I think earlier this year. An air terrarium, I'm going to do a step-by-step guide on building your own air terrarium, so I'll be doing that. That'll probably be a bit later in the year. That might be June possibly, but I'll know that a little bit later on, probably middle of March, once the cold period is out of the way and the snow's gone. My schedule of what videos I'll be doing and when, I'll know better as to what's coming up. NPK ratios. I'll be doing a tech video on that to explain what it is, what it does, how it's created, and how different ones affect different plants in different ways. A video, actually another nursery which is close by, on soils. Now obviously you have soil in your garden, so I'll be doing, part of the video will be what soil is actually made up of, what creates soil, but also the other soils that you can buy, and I mean there are lots of them, so what they can be used for and what they can't. And big problem I've seen over the last few years is conifers. A lot of them are dying off. They've got a lot got aphid problems. There's about 7 different reasons why the conifers are actually dying off in different places. Some of it's weather, some of it's how it's being cut, some of it's disease, and there's a few different reasons there. So I'll actually run through a video on that and actually talk about different things that can cause a problem, and then different things you can do to try and fix it. Some of them are not fixable, unfortunately. Round about May time, I'll be looking at doing a video on making our own hanging baskets, and I'll probably do a couple, maybe do 3 or 4, because there's lots of different ways you can do it, and there's lots of different styles and sizes of hanging baskets you can have. There's different ways you can put them together. So I'll do a video on that, but that season always tends to start a little bit later in terms of making stuff for yourself. Now I'm really hoping that I'm really hoping that I can get something called Million Bells. It's a trailing petunia, and it's absolutely stunning. The last time I had it was about 6-7 years ago, and once the plants had been put in and it was watered and fed, after 2 months the trailing flowers were nearly 6 feet long. Absolutely stunning. So I'm hoping I can get hold of that. Right, the flash weather report, that's done. And that's the list from there. Now I've actually got something like anything between 20 and 30 videos that I've recorded a while ago. Now, the problem I'm having now is because I've got a better camera and I have better bits together. Now I'm actually going to be recording a new bumper at some point very soon, preferably when it's a bit warmer, because I don't want to be doing this outside. And at the moment what I do have is this one. Hold on. Right, so let's have a look. Hold on. Cheers, Wayne. Thank you. I'm playing. No, that's not doing it. Right, okay, that's hardly surprising. So, let's go back to that one. Yeah, cheers, Wayne. Hopefully next time things will run a bit smoother. So that's the choice of the other videos we've got coming up soon, of which there are a lot to record. Let's go back to the schedule, just make sure I'm covering everything. Now, the other thing that I wanted to quickly ask you guys about is future live stream topics. Now, what I can do, I would imagine that at least in part, each time we run one of these live streams, at least a chunk of it is going to cover the Lawn Care Masterclass. I'm sure as we go through and there's more information that comes out on the individuals each week, you'll have questions as to what to do, how to do it, orders you should do things in, what should take priority, and any issues that you have, any issues that you have as you start doing the different things around your garden. But in addition to that, as the year moves on, there are going to be other things around your garden you want to do. You're looking at doing some planting, you're going to be cutting back shrubs, tidying up perennials. Certainly that should happen over the next month or so. any hedge cutting, if you're looking at doing any landscaping, hard or soft landscaping in the garden, you're doing a design for a new border, anything like that, then obviously we can add those into the live stream chat choices, and you just need to let me know. Probably the best thing to do is actually post comments on here for stuff that you'd like to see. I think it was Ben last week was asking about how to actually quantify prices for certain jobs. I think it was on the Oxted job. Let me just check. Let me have a quick look. Let's get my gun. It was Ben Smith. Hello Nick, it would be good to see a video on how to go about pricing a job like that. Not revealing any actual cost, but running through what you need to include and things to remember when pricing, like skip hire and any terms and conditions that cover any unforeseen extras. Yes, I hadn't actually thought about doing any videos like that. However, very, very easy to do. I've hired enough skips to know what to do in terms of actually hiring a skip, and actually how to calculate how much you actually need for actually how many skips you might need to actually buy, but also the costs that are involved in terms of where to put the skip, whether or not you need a road license for the skip, how long you can have them for, what you can put in them, and then calculating the costs as to how many skips you'll need and how much you'll actually be taking out. Also what you're going to put in them is really important, because over the last few years getting rid of waste has become, one, extremely difficult, and two, really, really expensive. The interesting stat for you, in the borough of Croydon, I think this was last year, one of the main problems that's come up these days is mattresses. And in terms of mattresses that are being dumped around properties around the borough of Croydon, each month the council is picking up 60,000 mattresses. So that's one of the main things that's been cut out from being allowed in skips, so they don't take them anymore. So getting rid of those separately is now a major issue. It's now a worse problem than getting rid of fridges and freezers. So that's a whole different series of videos that could be done there. So looking at, if you wanted to build a deck, what are considerations for what you need to build a deck? If you're laying turf, what's the process? What tools do you need? What do you need to hire? What to do about actually going to a hire company? What's the process of actually hiring out a piece of equipment from one of them, which isn't as easy as you think. When I first started, I had a job, I can't remember what it was, I think it was a patio that I did in Purley long time ago, and I needed a little mini digger. It's one of those little sit-in ones with a roll bar over the top. It was a Kabuto 800 and it had variable tracks on it, and it was really, really handy. Higher cost for the day was less than £70, but it was a £900 deposit to actually rent the thing out, because I didn't have an account with them. So having an account makes a huge difference. One, you don't have to pay deposits. Two, you don't have to pay for it on delivery, and then you can pay for it on invoice later on. So I'll go through all the bits that cover in that. So there's loads of different options, bits that you can do there. And right, let's have a look back at the schedule. Alright, so we've done sound, weather, no personal Q&A because there's no one here to ask me personal questions, which is fine, but maybe next time. Masterclass breakdown, we've gone through that. Masterclass Q&A, well, unless you ask me a question really, really quickly, that could be it for the evening. There's only one watching, which is fine, because that's better than none. And the very last thing was future live stream topics. So if you've got any questions, any particular videos that you'd like to go through, like to do any videos on, let me know in the comments. And let's just give it a minute just to see if there's anything that does come up that people might want to have a look at. Now what I am hoping is that with the extremely slow feed, that this video isn't going to be completely garbled, because what might end up happening is that I might just have to do this whole video all over again in a month's time. But what it may be is I might end up doing it next weekend, perhaps, because it was such a bad start. There was so much lag that I could hardly understand what was going on with it. So what I may do, what I may end up doing actually, is just sometime during the week I will run a test again and see if I can get the settings right so we can actually have a smooth run of video. Let's have a look in the dashboard on YouTube, because that's still running super slow, really super slow, and that's even with the slow mode off. Alright, so that's how slow it is. Right, it's just run my intro, which I actually clicked to play 5 minutes ago. Right, I obviously need to sort out my streaming capabilities here because this is so slow. Right, okay guys, it hasn't been as successful as I'd hoped it would have been, not because there's not a million people here to watch, but because the actual stream quality is